everybody, and welcome to the Fortress Comic News, episode 96. I am one of your hosts, Chris, alongside my co-host, Mike.
It's me. Wow. So we got hit with some pretty terrible news this week.
The worst.
Unfortunately, the legend Stan Lee has passed away. So as a little tribute to him, Chris and I are going to talk about two, my favorite, I don't know if it's his favorite, but we're talking about two books that Stan Lee wrote today. I think mine is an awesome reflection of his writing and what he did for people in comic books. He was 95, so we just hope that he lived the fullest of life. Well, I think once the Marvel movies started hitting, I think he was on the upswing, at least looked like it. So,
yeah, 95. He was about a year after his wife passed away. So I hate saying it, but I'm surprised he made it that long because him and his wife were together for a long time, and you always hear about the couples kind of dying months apart from each other. But if there's any solace in anything, it's that he lived a very long, fulfilling life. So kudos to you, Stan.
He contributed so much to Marvel and so much to what we have in DC today. I mean, man, the guy started it all. He was there at the beginning of it all. So I reread this week Fantastic Four number 51. It's a pretty iconic issue. It has the Thing on the front. This man, this monster. It's one of my favorite issues. I'm not a huge Fantastic Four fan. I don't talk about that, but I do love this issue because it does a couple things. It's centered around the Thing and how he's really down to the dumps. And of course, it just happens to be raining out while he's walking around down to the dumps. But he really hates being the Thing. Like, he doesn't find himself as human anymore, which is a pretty interesting storyline because, I mean, the Thing is like this tough outer shell. He's supposed to be the heavy hitter of the Fantastic Four, but Stan Lee kind of makes the readers know that he has a weakness, and it's his feelings. And sometimes, no matter how strong you are and how big you are, you just can't fight those off. So he, at some point in the issue, he ends up conveniently fighting a villain that wants to swap bodies with him to try to take over the Fantastic Four. So he gives him his normal body back. So the Thing is kind of like, well, this sucks, but now I'm human again, so I'm going to go do human things. And the villain goes to Reed Richards, and he's basically like an arch scientist that has hated Reed Richards, but then he noticed, like, after helping him out in the lab, and they go on, he opens this portal to hang out in between dimensions, and that's always something that Stan Lee did. He's like, this is a science book, that the Fantastic Four was created with science, so I'm going to keep the science aspect. So, like, half of the book we have depressed Thing, the other half of the book we have interdimensional traveling with Mr. Fantastic. It's a great issue. The villain actually ends up sacrificing himself to save Reed Richards because he realizes that not only is he a smarter scientist than him, but this man is completely selfless to sacrifice himself to do some greater good. So he sacrifices himself to save Reed Richards, and he kind of realizes that was his major contribution to science. It's a great book. It's a one-shot. I mean, there's some other, references to other things, but that's besides the point. Fantastic Four number 51. You can't miss it. It's this man, this monster on the cover. It's such a great issue.
Yeah, Fantastic Four, just as altogether, I'm not a huge Fantastic Four fan either, but all respect to the world, because that was the book that really changed it all.
Yeah,
that's the book that created the modern Marvel, and I think probably the saddest part of all this was that Marvel finally got the Fantastic Four back, and Stan never got to see them done right.
Yeah. Yeah,
but,
for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, that was definitely the book that started it all. Mine was Spider-Man number 33, and I chose that because, I mean, mostly it's just Spider-Man is Stan Lee to me. Um, Spider-Man was the book that really changed things for Marvel and really made like the Marvel prototype superhero. And this issue in particular, anyone that's played the Spider-Man PS4 video game, that game is, at least the second half of it is based on this issue. So Spider-Man has to go out and find an isotope serum in order to save Aunt May. And he has to make sacrifices to do so. Along the way, he gets into battles. There's some iconic moments, and he ends up finding out that the serum is being held by someone that he doesn't like or trust, and there's J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh.
Fantastic issue, fantastic artwork. Ditko was another one we lost this year, so we lost both the fathers of Spider-Man. And just Spider-Man as a whole, but this issue too just shows that Stan Lee really wanted these comics to have heart and to really kind of connect with people. So yeah, it's one of my favorite issues, and Spider-Man is probably my favorite Stan Lee creation. So
yeah, that's the thing he did for everyone. I mean, before comics were cool again, I mean, people were looking to his books to feel normal, and that's how he did it. He created a lot of heart in his books, and you could tell he's into it. I don't know, something about reading a Stan Lee book compared to other books for me is just like this is a comic book. You know what I mean? Like a copy. Like if you encyclopedia, look it up. This is an example of a comic book that set the standard for everything else to come. And it's funny because like you read a lot of older stuff like DC, Marvel stuff, and there's so much exposition. Like the old school Green Lantern series, like every panel has notes to read alongside like word bubbles. Stan Lee wasn't doing that. Like he was letting Jack Kirby do his thing. He was letting Steve Ditko do his thing, which is like, when you think about it, is ahead of the time, because like every other book you read is like, this comic book's for a kid. I really have to explain what's going on in the panel because, you know, you can't look at the art and find out for yourself. Yeah, he knew how to do it. He understood the comic book industry, that's for sure.
Yeah, Stan Lee, I mean, this is true of any creative person, but Stan Lee is a huge benefactor of probably two of the greatest artists in comic history, Jack King Kirby and Steve Ditko. So,
yeah,
those three together created everything we know in the Marvel universe.
Yep. And the New Gods as well come off of that. So
yeah, and if I may, for DC fans, there's actually a series, I want to say it happened back in the 90s, where DC hired Stan to write a series of comics, and it was take our characters but do them the Stan Lee way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fun exercise. They're not the greatest books in the world, I will admit, but they are a fun exercise because he kind of takes those ideas like, you know, Batman, Superman, you know, Wonder Woman, etc., and does them kind of in a Marvel fashion. And they're a lot of fun. And this is pre-Marvel doing that themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's like pre-Marvel creating their own Justice League and everything with those newer books.
Yeah, pre-Century, pre-Moon Knight, all that.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we kind of talked that one up. But yeah, very, very sad he passed this week. He'll be greatly missed.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the regular news for the show. Swamp Thing cast Kevin Durant as Plant Master. So it seems like the first season is going to have Plant Master as the villain, which is kind of strange.
Yeah.
That's like to me, Plant Master is like a one-shot villain. So maybe, I don't know. if you want to do Swamp Thing the right way, you just grab Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, and you do that.
Yeah.
Like,
I was so confused by this. I mean,
Playmaster wasn't a... I don't know.
Especially, like, Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, everyone talks about it, and most people read the first volume. That's great. But the second volume is one of my favorite, like, chunks of comics ever written. Him descending into hell and trying to save Abigail. Yeah. And then volume 4, which I doubt they'll do, is another one of my favorites, which is where he takes over Gotham and has to fight Batman.
Oh yeah, where he's fighting Batman, and then the volume 5 gets kind of weird where he goes to space.
Yeah,
he like finds Adam Strange. That's where it gets kind of crazy. But yeah, I remember when I first started reading that, you were like, "Wait till you get to volume 4." And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And then it was like Swamp Thing in Gotham, and I was like, "Oh man."
It's so fantastic. But yeah, I don't get why you don't just cut and paste, that run.
I can't think of the villain's name right now, but he's the guy who, like, in the Swamp Thing issue, kind of sits in the diner and everybody starts turning everybody crazy.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna remember that.
But he's like death and decay. Like, that's who your villain needs to be. Like,
yeah.
I want to see the scene where he just sits down in the diner and everybody in the diner is like going crazy for 24 hours, like they're just losing their minds. I just remember that issue, and it was so good. So I guess we're getting Plant Master. They're gonna do the Flash Villain of the Week thing. I don't know. This is pretty exciting news this week. The Mandalorian show cast Pedro Pascal in the lead role, which is awesome.
Which makes sense. I forget the actor's name, but Jango Fett was a Latino actor as well.
Yeah.
So it keeps with the continuity there. And I don't know the gentleman himself, so I don't know if he's a good actor or not. But I'm just glad to see this show move forward.
He was in he's a pretty big role in Game of Thrones.
That's probably why I don't know his work, because I gave up on Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Supergirl cast John Cryer as Lex Luthor. If anybody doesn't know who John Cryer is, he's got a big old bald head. So very large head. I looked this man up and I was like, wow, yep.
I just want Lex Luthor flashbacks of when he used to live with Charlie Sheen. That's all I want.
It's I don't think that ever happened.
Anyone doesn't know, John Cryer was the second lead in 2.5 Men. And, yeah. So I found this funny when I saw it, because all I could think.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like, he's a sitcom guy, right? And now he's going like.
He's a sitcom guy who only had one big role, and the only reason he had one big role is because Charlie Sheen. And Charlie Sheen kind of blew it all up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, he kind of looks the part, but.
Did you see, if you watched Kingsman: The Golden Circle, he was in, Pedro Pascal was in that.
I haven't had a chance to watch that yet, actually. I keep forgetting to watch that.
Man.
Yeah, that's one that's on my list, and I never get around to it.
He was in, I guess he's in Wonder Woman 1984. I forgot he got cast for that. I don't know who he is. He was also in The Great Wall, that awesome movie with Matt Damon, Saves All the Asians. Because all the ninjas and samurai couldn't save themselves. They needed the Westerner Matt Damon to show up and fight off the monsters.
You need Bourne to show up and show these fucking people how to do stuff,
It was a great movie, though. I think I talked about The Great Wall when it came out, but yeah. He was in that. I think he's the guy who travels with Matt Damon in the movie.
So he's more of the movie stuff I've never seen.
Yeah, you should start watching it, though. Let's see. We got Walking Dead. How's that? You want to talk about that this week?
Yeah, great episode this week. So we have a time jump. It's about 3-4 years of a time jump. So basically, what we learn here is at the end of the last episode, Judith had saved these people. And that's kind of where we start, is these people come to Alexandria, and we figure out how things are run now, and it's a little different. So they're not very welcoming to new people, and they go through this whole process, and it's basically Michonne is kind of in charge, but there's more of a committee going on, but she's kind of the head, and everyone follows her, and we see her kind of change throughout the episode, and to a point where she's like, I don't want new people here, but the hilltop can have you. So that happens. There's a good back and forth between her and Judith. We end up finding out that Michonne was pregnant, and Rick has a son. And that's how we get the kind of 3 to 4 year time jump, is he's definitely a toddler of some sort, at least 3 years old. The B story is Carol in the Kingdom, and Carol now has long hair, which is really weird. And
is it a wig? Like, is it noticeably a wig?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a wig.
That's awesome.
And Carol goes on this kind of trip with the boy that her and the king have been raising, and they end up getting ambushed by the group that was causing trouble in the first 4 episodes, led by the dude from Entourage. And they attack her, and she lets them go, but in typical Carol fashion, she gets her revenge at the end, and she burns them all alive.
Classic Carol.
That whole sequence was meant to show us that the sanctuary is no longer, or is it the sanctuary? Is no longer around. So it's just the hilltop, the kingdom, and Alexandria. That was basically that whole point, and for her to run into Daryl and bring Daryl back to Alexandria. And then the third story in there is Eugene, and Eugene now, his mullet is very long, and he has braided it. And
oh, nice, a braided mullet.
Yeah. And he's become a little bit of a badass now, so he's not afraid to stab zombies and do his whole thing. So he's kind of a leader, both as his intelligence, and he can actually fight for himself. Him and one of the characters go out, and they're trying to amplify the signal for their radio that they've made. That was showed earlier in the season, and they run into trouble, obviously. And this story was arguably the most important of the 3 stories, because obviously they go out, they get everything set, stuff goes wrong, a herd appears. They have to run away. Eugene gets hurt in the process, and they have to fall down. It was a very like Lord of the Rings moment where Frodo kind of falls behind the tree and the Deathbringers go across. It was like that. They were like underneath the tree behind this hill as the zombies were walking across. And you can hear them talking in the herd. So that was the hint that the Whisperers are going to be the second half of the season's villain.
Nice.
Really good episode altogether. It's a kind of a good starting off or jumping on point, to be honest. Because everything's kind of reset. The only thing, if you've been kind of away for a while, all you really need to know is that Rick's dead, quote unquote.
We think,
and that we're in a bit of into the future, and these societies have grown. And the other big thing was that they hinted that remember the big festival before the Whisperers, and that's when the Whisperers kind of attacked. They're getting ready for that to bring all the communities back together.
Yeah, put everybody in one spot.
Yeah, that's what you got to do.
Makes perfect sense.
I've really enjoyed this season. I know people have been down the past couple of seasons, and I was with them, but I think this one's kind of picked things back up and reinvigorated it. I like that Rick is gone and Carl's gone. I feel like the last season especially was kind of a wipe in order to tell new stories. So I definitely recommend if people have been kind of out of The Walking Dead or not really enjoying it, maybe picking this season back up and giving it another shot.
Nice. CW Verse, I am caught up on Flash. Did you watch last week's episode?
I did not.
You're probably going to hate it because there's like a killer creepy clown.
Oh, I'll be fine. The missus will hate it. I'm
Oh,
sure
she'll
watch
hate
it right in
it.
front of her.
It was. They did a lot of like. It was weird because it was like you're still watching The Flash, but they did a lot of horror stuff, like him crawling up the wall in the background of scenes and stuff. It's kind of strange. Yeah, it's a really good episode, and then they kind of with some magical I don't know thought by Cisco. He's like, oh wait, why can't we just use the rest of the satellites that are in space? So now they just have like 4 satellites in space instead of just having 1. They had 0, and now they have 4. I don't know. I didn't question it. I'm just like, whatever. They have 4 satellites.
Whatever gets your story moving.
They kind of find out that Caitlin was like they're like investigating what's going on with her and her dad, and like apparently he like summoned or was researching some ancient god of like frost or like goddess, and I think that's so they're trying to figure out like what happened in his lab and what was he doing to create Killer Frost. So that storyline's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm not caught up on Titans this week. It usually airs on Fridays, so I don't get to watch it till like the week after.
I did get a chance earlier in the week to watch some Arrow, and
yeah,
I think I got like 3 episodes in, and it's Arrow. I enjoyed it, but it's kind of they're really pushing home the he's in jail and something's going on the outside thing.
Yeah.
But if you like Arrow, I guess I'm more trying to keep up with those 2 at least. So when the crossover happens,
I'm just going to the crossover blind, man. I'm just watching Flash and the crossover.
Yeah, I don't know. I always enjoyed Arrow, even though Arrow is Arrow. I still like it's kind of like comfort food for me. So that's the one show. Like those are the 2 shows I'll watch of that. Supergirl, I tried so hard and I couldn't get into it, and then Legends of Tomorrow, I just dropped off after a while.
My problem with Arrow is I only watch Arrow for the characters that he's hanging out with, like Mr. Terrific or this season's Deathstroke. I'm gonna watch it for that.
Yeah.
But he's just not interesting enough for me to watch the show on my own. Like him out, it's like, oh, we got Arrow this season. It's like I don't want to see Arrow. I want to see Red Arrow. Can you bring Red Arrow back? I miss him. Yeah. So
yeah, he might be back. I'm just saying.
yeah, I did hear about that. I told you I work with his brother-in-law.
Yes.
Anyways, so movie news. We got some awesome Aquaman posters this week with him like full scaly orange and green suit, and man, he looks good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
He looks like Aquaman.
We get some good Aquaman action coming up. I am so excited for this movie.
I think the tickets went on sale. I gotta check. I'm pretty sure they went on sale already.
I have alerts set up for it, so I don't think they're up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've definitely got to buy them ahead of time because I'm going to opening night and then every night after that. Some more movie news. Detective Pikachu trailer dropped this week. What did you think?
I loved it. I thought this movie was going to suck.
I loved it too. Oh my god.
I was so against everything about this movie.
Me too. We brought it up in the news and we were both just like, nah, that's not going to be good.
Yeah, and I don't remember if I posted on Twitter, but I definitely posted on Facebook. Like when that happened, and I almost felt guilty being excited because it was like 10 minutes after I found out Stan Lee died.
Yeah.
But it's everything I wanted. Like I'm so glad that they are basically just jumping into the Pokemon universe and saying this is a universe that exists, there's trainers, there's this, there's that, and we're going to take this one small story about a kid and his father disappearing and weird Pikachu that's voiced by Ryan Reynolds and wants to go on an adventure. I'm so excited for it.
The only thing is I do get the Ryan Reynolds being voicing Pikachu is like, okay, I'm still kind of coming down from the Deadpool thing. That's the only gripe I've heard about it, and I don't like. That's not going to make me not see the movie. I still really enjoy it.
Yeah, I thought he killed it though. I didn't get a Deadpool vibe from it. So I'm still excited. I was strongly against Ryan Reynolds being Pikachu.
I personally would have rather had Gilbert Godfrey voicing Pikachu, but that's just me.
Oh, we were all rooting for Danny DeVito, but that was never.
Oh yeah, Danny DeVito. That's right. Oh my God. Yeah, hands down. Just give it to Danny DeVito. I mean, come on. But yeah, so let's talk about the trailer really quick. It is a universe. It's live action. So basically, this kid's got to find his dad, who was a missing detective. He was a really great detective. This kid hasn't really done much with his life, and he meets Detective Pikachu, who he's the only one that he can hear speak. So everybody else just hears him saying like Pika Pika. There's an interrogation scene with Mr. Mime that's really good.
Oh, it's fantastic.
There's a scene where like Jigglypuff's singing to someone at the bar and she puts him to sleep and she's like all pissed off about it. And I thought the Pokemon were going to be really creepy looking and there's going to be like kind of Uncanny Valley sort of stuff. But yeah. I think they look great. It's CGI mostly, but it's really good.
That's the big debate is the Pokemon, because a lot of people don't like the Jigglypuff is all furry.
Yeah.
And I personally, for Jigglypuff and Pikachu, thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I think it looks fine.
And as somebody who's a gigantic Pokemon fan, I looked more into it, and there is, like any movie, their fair share of CGI, but a lot of those characters, whether it be Charizard or Jigglypuff, they actually made actual models and used them for a lot of the scenes as well. So that's why I think it looks so good and doesn't have as much of the Uncanny Valley.
And you got to think about, like, yeah, you don't want hair on your Pokemon, but think about what that 3D model would look like. I mean, I think something about the texture makes them more realistic with this. And I get that. I get that you don't want hair in your Pokemon, but you got to think that the people creating this movie thought of that already. And they made 3D models with Pokemon with completely smooth skin, and that's got to be kind of even more creepy. I would think, like a completely like smooth Pikachu show. I don't know. It just seems weird for like texture quality. I don't know. It just I can't see that.
And I like the way they did it, because certain ones, like Mr. Mime, didn't have hair. He was smooth,
right, and he's really creepy because he's all smooth.
And
it's terrifying.
And Charizard had a very dragon scale-like look to him, as he should. I think they really picked the right ones. I mean, Jigglypuff is weird, because what is Jigglypuff? But at the same time, I thought that was the best decision they could have made for that character.
If we get like I don't know, I'm trying to think of like what Pokemon that shows up. If it's like super hairy, it would upset me. But like, the other thing I don't understand is like when Pikachu lightning bolts someone, how does he not singe his own hair?
Science.
Anyways, there was another trailer that dropped this week, Toy Story 4, or a teaser at least. Yeah, I mean, it's Toy Story. There's a couple of new toys added to the mix, I guess. Well, not really like makeup toys. So I guess that gets into the rule of like, okay, well, what constitutes as being a toy? I think that's what the theme of the movie is going to be behind it, and if that's it, it's gonna get real deep.
That seems to be what people are taking away as a theme. Obviously, Toy Story is fantastic. There's two things going around the internet that I'm going to ask you about this. One, what is your opinion of Forky? I'm
kind of indifferent.
Okay.
I don't think he belongs in the Toy Story universe. If that's what you're asking, I thought he was a little out of character.
People were very back and forth about Forky, and I'm kind of in the same vein. Like,
I got like South Park
I don't know
vibes.
what he is. The other one was, and to all the kids out there, maybe fast forward 5 minutes, but there was a question that went around, and it was, if toys come to life in Toy Story universe, what happens to the adult toys?
Yeah, I did see that from Mark Bernard, and he tweeted that he was like responding to someone. All I will say is I can't say yes or no to what is in that universe, but how great would it be for Seth Rogen to team up again like he did with that food movie and do adult Toy Story? I'm
just saying, I want to see the adventures of Buzz and Woody and Buzz and Woody. So.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. They wouldn't even need new names. Oh my god! Wow. All right, awesome. Any movies you watched lately?
No. To anyone out there in the U.S., it's pre-Thanksgiving week. And the holidays get busy for me, so I wanted to go see Overlord and was not able to. Hopefully, maybe Thanksgiving I'll be able to, but we'll see.
Now it's time for the great and magical comic book news. So if anybody read Mr. Miracle this week, you know that book ended, and now we are getting a Female Furies book is coming to DC after now Mr. Miracle's done, but it's not going to be Tom King. It's Cecil Castellucci and Andrea Mello, which. Yeah, I mean that's I've never read anything from these two, but part of the thing about Mr. Miracle for me was the art. The art is so good in that book, as well as the writing. So that's pretty cool. And Female Furies, I mean they're definitely interesting characters. And if they're gonna do them like on with the New Gods, I think that'd be a cool book. I might try out the first issue.
Yeah, everyone knows kind of my opinion of the New Gods, so this is not a book for me. But what I think the bigger underlying news here is that who does the art for Mr. Miracle?
Mitch Gerards.
Mitch Gerards and Tom King are got to be working on something new.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they have to be.
Oh, yeah. I don't have the issue with me right here, but if you read in the back of the book, it says... we will continue, just not with Mr. Miracle. Something is coming, and I was like, "Yes!"
Yeah. So
I think that's
I think they're trying to get 4 or 5 issues in the can, and then announce and release. But yeah, there's gonna be some 12-issue series coming from those two soon.
Dude, Booster Gold, Blue Beetle. Come on.
We talked about this a lot, but after Heroes in Crisis, I was convinced a Booster Gold book was coming from Tom King.
Yeah, and this is the time. Drawn by Mitch Gerards, I will throw all my money at the comic book shop.
I still think that's a thing, but here's my pitch. Okay, Blue Beetle I keep saying Blue Beetle. Booster Gold is the one that killed everyone in Sanctuary. Okay, that happened. So now he's on the lam in time. So he has to jump through time to get away from the heroes and make up for his failure.
See, that's a little too serious of a Booster Gold book for me. I just kind of want to see Booster Gold driving around the timeline and messing with people. Maybe that's just me, but I already read Batman. I don't need another serious. Anyways,
I always go dark.
Yeah. So there's a Wolverine Infinity Watch mini coming from Gary Dugan and Andy McDonald. So what do you think Infinity Watch is?
Infinity Watch is a time-tested Marvel tradition, and that's somebody who's given all the Infinity Stones and trusted to protect them, but inevitably fails.
So Wolverine has to protect the Infinity Stones?
Yeah, so after Infinity Wars, we got one more issue of that going, and then we have a epilogue book, and then, I don't know, tons of books because it's Marvel, and we're going to jump into this, and I am down... I'm not a big Wolverine guy, but anything that says Infinity in the title and has the Marvel logo in the corner, I'm buying it.
Is it Jerry or Gary Dugan?
I always call him Jerry.
My friend has a name spelled just like that, and it's Gary. So we'll just call him Jerry Dugan from now on until we hear otherwise from him. We'll have to get him on the show and find out.
He needs to find an artist with the name Ben so he can be Ben and Jerry Dugan.
So how do you think about so you're Wolverine, right? And you're told to guard the Infinity Gems, and you get the Time Gem, and from the characterization of Wolverine, doesn't he hate being Wolverine? Doesn't he just want to die? Isn't there? I mean, there's sad, depressed Wolverine that he wishes he could just not be immortal. So wouldn't he go back in time and just stop that all from happening?
I don't know. So. Anyone doesn't know in continuity, he's just been resurrected. So he was dead for 2 or 3 years.
So maybe he's appreciative that he's alive again.
Yeah, so I don't know, but he does have some connection to the Space Gem, because when we were leading up to Infinity Wars, that was the big thing, was that Logan had reappeared, and he reappeared holding the Space Gem. So that'll be interesting for Wolverine fans. I'm just hoping for a cool Infinity story.
Okay. That's some pretty cool news. Chip Zdarsky and Marco Cicchetto are taking over Daredevil in February.
Yes.
Are you buying that book?
I'm always buying a Daredevil book. Charles Soule has been doing a great job on it.
Yep.
He's obviously bringing his run to an end with his run being called Death of Daredevil right now. Mm-hmm. Chip Zdarsky he's been around as an artist for a long time, but I really think he's making a name for himself at Marvel as a writer right now.
Yeah.
And I think he's been killing it. Everything he puts his hands on, I've been loving. And it's great because they announced the end of Marvel 2-in-1 that Zdarsky was doing, and he said he was taking over something that we'd all be excited for. And here it is. It's Daredevil, and I'm excited. So nice. I'll buy Daredevil either way, but this just makes me even more excited for it.
Awesome. Yeah, so I guess we'll get to what we read this week.
Yeah.
Because it's the most recent thing I just talked about. We'll talk about Mr. Miracle, number 12. Yeah, it's the end of the book. They kind of wrapped everything up. I don't know. I need to reread it because there's some stuff going on in the issue where I don't know if they said he escaped death, and now we're seeing like, I don't know, we're seeing like projections of all the new gods that are gone now talking to him about how he escaped death, and then the end of the issue they end up having we find out that Big Bard is pregnant again, and they're going to have a daughter now. So they currently have a baby son, now they're going to have a daughter. It was a really good issue. It kind of just ends with him and Big Bard on the couch, and you can tell that they love each other. It's awesome to see those two characters together and that relationship. But I don't even know why I'm talking about anything else besides Murder Falcon number 2. Honestly, this book, I am going to preach to the cows till the cows come home about Murder Falcon number. It's an Image book. If you don't know what it is, just go buy it and find out. Murder Falcon issue 2. So yeah, we're still not only is he summoning Murder Falcon, he's hanging out with Murder Falcon, not even just to fight monsters. Mm-hmm. Come to find out, there's other instruments. So they need to form like a monster killing band. So he goes to his ex bassist from his old band, and they're like, okay, now we have to go find you your weapon. And so what they do is they go to this old music store, and they like bust through the back wall, and there's this cave, and the two guys working there are like, whoa. So they travel through the cave, and they find a legendary bass, and the bassist summons his monster as this giant like mammoth elephant thing, and it's awesome. So that's his like familiar with his super. So like everybody gets an instrument, and they all get familiar with it. It's kind of like, it's like Pokemon, except you're using instruments instead of Pokeballs.
Who's the writer for this book?
Oh, geez. It is Daniel Warren Johnson, and Mike Spicer is the colorist.
All right, Daniel Warren Johnson, I'm looking at you right now. Contact Tim Schafer and make this into a video game.
We got to get this guy in the show. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. Okay, so that's happening, and at the end of the issue, they go, now we got to find a drummer. So if this is going to be true to like, the like memes within assembling band and like the music industry, it's almost impossible to find a drummer, or at least like you cycle through drummers. So either this is going to take more than one issue to find the drummer, I would assume, or to like get him to join the band. Such a good book, though. I can't, like, the art is just, it's all over the place. Amazing Spider-Man number 9. Yeah, it was pretty interesting issue. We get a lot of history between Black Cat and Spider-Man. I didn't really find the whole there's two stories going on. I didn't find the whole Black Cat Spider-Man story too interesting. Like, yeah, they found the missing stuff. Black Cat wants to steal the stuff. Spider-Man wants to give the stuff back, and then they get caught in a tussle, and now they're gonna have to fight together. I mean, that's a typical story. The interesting story I liked was Mary Jane goes to like a help group, almost like AA, but for people who are like, you know, B characters or C characters within the lives of superheroes, and how do they deal with that. So they're kind of like sitting around discussing like their feelings about being friends or being family of superheroes. I thought that was pretty cool. Did you read that?
No. So I had, as a PSA, I had like 20 issues come out this week. So
yeah, it was.
I did not get to read everything. I
didn't get to everything either. Cosmic Ghost Rider number 5. You must have read that.
Oh fuck yeah, I did.
You can't just not read that one. I think that was the end, right? Was that the end of the book?
Yeah, it's the last issue.
Last issue, yeah, really good. You want to talk about this one? I'm getting.
Yeah, so it's basically the fight between Cosmic Ghost Rider and Punisher Thanos, and awesome. It's just a knockout dragon fight. So basically, Punisher, Ghost Rider gives all he has to Thanos. It doesn't take him down. It just kind of strips his clothes from him, and Thanos just looks at him and laughs. And so he goes and he says that you need penance. And Thanos just smiles at him and goes, "Oh, so you're going to give me a gift?" I think he's giving the penance stare.
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, penance means vengeance." So just sucks the life out of him and turns him into a skull that he then crushes.
That was so metal. It was such an awesome fight.
And then that's followed by a very touching moment where Ghost Rider goes up and sees the Frank Castle and Frank's wife holding baby Thanos. And he takes him away from him and kind of walks away. It has to look back real quick to see what he's giving up in order to fix the timeline.
Yeah, that was so good.
Then goes back into the future and puts baby Thanos back where he was in his crib, and meets up with Lady Death, who is just like, "I want to thank you for taking him and teaching him about how to kill."
Yeah, so we find out in the end that after all that, Frank Castle is responsible for creating the evil Thanos that we see today.
Yeah. And then he flies into the future where he's going to go form the new Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I cannot wait for that book.
Yeah, such a good miniseries. Highly recommend picking it up.
I had Hit Girl number 10. So 9 and 10. 9 was the start of when she goes to Rome. There's a whole fight scene of why she gets to Rome. She gets thrown on a cargo of a plane, and there's a thief who's tried to steal this like very like, I don't know, like a priceless skull that's embedded with gems and everything. Come to find out, there's like a crime lord in Rome, and it's like this little old lady. It's actually like really creepy. She's like we get introduced to her by some guys trying to cook pasta sauce for her, and it's like too salty, so she just like strangles them with a crucifix. It's really messed up. Yeah, she's really creepy. She enjoys killing people, and that's kind of the main villain. So we find out the thief that Hit Girl has been fighting with all issue is like actually trying to do this to save her father. So Hit Girl's like, "Oh, I can kind of relate to that because I really cared about my dad too." So they kind of team up at the end of the book, and we're gonna see how they're gonna take down this evil mastermind granny. See how that goes. I had Weatherman number 6. Did you read that?
Okay, I did.
Great issue. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah, so stand by my statement. Weatherman's the best comic on shelves.
So good.
It's
amazing.
So basically all these different entities have invaded the reality show that is taking our lead character and putting him through this torture where he's constantly being killed over and over again in his mind. And they break the machine, and he's kind of forced to keep reliving it and can't. If he's taken away from the machine, he dies. Of course, they find a way to get him out. His ex-girlfriend, who we found out was a agent, is the one that saves him and gets him out, takes him to this group, and they go into space. And there's something coming, like it's basically he gets away from this group and goes into space and is just kind of realizing like who he is and what he's done.
Yeah, that he was a piece of shit.
Yeah. And
like they were in the army, like they were like killing children and killing a bunch of civilians, and they didn't really care.
Yeah, and then we leave it off with they're leaving to go somewhere, and they find out they're going back to Earth.
Yeah, so they must be rebuilding Earth right now, right?
Yes, in some way, like that must be why all the satellites are around Earth, is they're trying to terraform
Earth. We've been led to believe that Earth has been destroyed, so they must be rebuilding it or trying to piece back together. So
yeah, it seems like because we were led to believe it was destroyed. It seems like it was some sort of chemical attack that really affected the atmosphere.
Oh, okay, maybe that's it.
So I wonder if they were like re-terraforming the Earth and trying to make it what it was again. Mm-hmm. We do get kind of a sequence of what happened that day where this mist comes and just basically disintegrates everything in its sight.
Yeah.
The book's fantastic. Anyone that watched my top 5 last week saw that I got kind of a negative comment about it, but I'd strongly recommend anybody check this book out. It is so good. And this is the end of the first storyline. And we won't get another storyline until early next year. So what you can do is you can go Meantime from the same writer. Yeah.
Anyways, that's all I had. I got a couple more that I still have to read, but
okay, yeah, I have a ton of stuff to read, but I did get to read Captain America #5. Basically, Sharon Carter is saved, and we find out that Red Skull is back.
Classic.
Pretty good stuff. Not the greatest book, but it's Captain America, so I'm down. Fantastic Four #3. All of the Fantastic Four members are together, and they have to defeat this entity, and they basically trust in Reed and take all of his advice, destroy their way out, and Reed comes up with this plan basically to destroy her pod that lets her jump between dimensions, and tells her that he can rebuild the pod, but she only have one jump, and she has a choice to either use it to go to another dimension, destroy it with her inside of it, or to go back to her home dimension and leave everybody alone. It's pretty good. It's a great 3-issue introduction into bringing the Fantastic Four back, and it's going to lead us into Ben Grimm's marriage coming up in issue 5. God of War #1.
Oh yeah, how was that?
So it's a good book. It's not a great book. I was really looking forward to it because I love the God of War game. This is kind of the beginning of Kratos has a son, and they're in this new world, and they don't know much about it. And we find out that Kratos is going out every day and kind of testing himself to see if he can control his anger. And he fails every day, but he constantly goes out and tries to test himself to see if he can take control of his anger. And in all of that, he finds this man who's being attacked by this bear, and he says, leave it, and finally just like, I gotta do something, goes and kills the bear, rips him in half, saves the man runs away. He goes back home to talk to his son, and we find out that wasn't a bear, it was actually a cultist member who everybody in this cult can turn into these bear-like creatures.
Oh, gosh.
And so they come in like, you killed our brother, so we're going to kill you. And it ends with all them turning into bears and attacking Kratos. It was good. I'll continue to read it, because I just love God of War.
So now he's shirtless bear fighter, is what you're telling me?
Yes.
The more serious version of shirtless bear fighter?
Superman #5. The basic premise here is that Earth is back, and when Earth comes back, Zod meets up with Adam Strange, and it says like, what happened here, what's going on, and Strange tells him what he knows. He goes down, meets the Atom, and jumps into the Phantom Zone, and comes down and sees what's the villain's name? I can never pronounce.
Oh, the new
correctly.
one.
Yeah,
I know, it's the big scary dude with an axe.
Yeah, the guy who's destroyed all of Krypton, but goes and sees him and sees kind of Superman lying there, giving the speech about how I'll defeat you, but I won't kill you. And he comes down and he goes, "This man may not want to kill you, but I have no qualms about it." And that's how the issue kind of ends. Really great issue.
Wait, who says that? Adam Strange?
Zod.
Oh, Zod.
Zod, okay. Yeah. Because Zod was there when Krypton was destroyed, so he knows that this creature had destroyed it.
I was going to say, what is that? Adam Strange with a jetpack and a pistol.
I got you.
Kill you. I'm going to get you.
Black Order #1. So we end up finding out that the Black Order's been sent on this mission to kill this Emperor of a Galactic Empire. This definitely isn't Star Wars. And they go and they slaughter planet after planet.
And these are the people we saw in the movie, right? It's the same lineup.
Yes. So last time we saw them was during Avengers No Surrender. And
anybody doesn't know who the Black Order is, it's the Thanos goon squad from the Infinity War movie.
Correct. And we saw them during Avengers No Surrender. They were working for one of the gods from that, and he has sent them on this mission. And the Emperor of this, alliance realizes what's happening, so he sends his greatest warrior, and his greatest warrior is called Big Angry. And he just gets his ass kicked. So he gets his ass kicked and has his arm ripped off. And they stand there and tell him, like, it's over. Are you going to give up, or do you have more soldiers to send my way? And he looks at them and says, I do have more soldiers. I have all of the soldiers. And it pans out, and there's just soldiers everywhere.
Nice.
So it was really good. We got kind of a look into the mind of some of the characters and what they're thinking and where they've been. It was a lot better than I thought it would be, even though I was looking forward to it. So, good stuff.
Nice.
Thor #7. Basically, it's an Thor from the Viking Age story.
Nice.
And Tony Moore does the art, so the art is fantastic.
Oh yeah, he's a good artist.
Loki tries to trick Thor into falling in love with a Viking, hoping that this will get him to. Basically, he'll fall in love and he'll lose her in the end, and that will cause him to not want to go to Midgard anymore. And this was a plan that Loki came up with to help get the favor of Odin, and it fails. So the whole thing happens, but Thor realizes that he needs to stay on Midgard because if he was to leave, that would be a disgrace to the love that he had and everything. It was a good one-shot story, and Tony Moore art is fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good.
And then Venom #8. I read Venom. I don't want to spoil it, but there's a big change to Venom's power set in here.
Oh.
And
is it the final issue?
No, not that I'm aware of, at least. So we get that big change. We get Eddie Brock's kind of send off of Flash Thompson, and him basically saying, like, I know that you were always the symbiote's favorite, and I will always be second to you. And then it ends with a tease of this kind of pod that just says C. Cassidy on it, which anyone that knows, that's Carnage.
Oh, snap.
And next week we are getting Web of Venom, Carnage Born #1, so great issue. I didn't expect it to be this good because the last issue was such a kind of a downturn.
Yeah, low.
But sure. I absolutely love this issue. Yeah, Venom's great.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. Yeah, it was on my list. I just haven't read it yet.
So, Mike, if people want to find you on the internet, where could they find you?
You find me at Fortress Ricker on Twitter. Where can they find you, Chris?
You can find me at Fortress Chris on Twitter, or you can find the show at FTN_official, and also FortressComicNews.com, where we post everything we do right there on that one page. Your one-stop shop for everything, Mike and Chris. So remember, guys, if you are listening to us on podcast feed, to give us a review, 5 stars or above, or 4 stars or above, whatever it is. And give us that illustrious 6 stars on iTunes. And if you're watching us with our faces, make sure to give us a thumbs up down below and subscribe to the channel. That all helps us out very much. So everybody, if you are in the great old United States, have a happy Thanksgiving. Yep. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
And if you're living in England,
we won, suckers.
Won.